brandish the Elden Ring for all of us.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel, WaywardCulture, and today I got something a little bit different for you. I'm actually going to be doing a game review. You see, I've got a couple of other different channels. One of them is called Wayward Games, and I do Let's Plays on that. And just recently ago, I finished a couple of Let's Plays, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. And so, I thought I would make a video that's just kind of not really scripted, off the cuff, but, you know, just to communicate some of my general thoughts on the game. I'm going to be making a review today about Elden Ring and what I liked about it and why I definitely think it's worth playing. It's going to be a little bit different, and later on next week, I'm going to get back to normal videos. I've got an anime video that I'm going to be putting out, but today, I want to tell you what is great about Elden Ring. And so, starting off, let's cover the graphics. I think the graphics are okay. It's probably my least favorite part about the whole game. I mean, they're fine. They pass just fine. But it's not going to stick out and pop as something like, say, Final Fantasy, the new one coming out, or even 15, or even something like God of War Ragnarok. But they're passable. The whole part about the setting in Elden Ring is a lot of the different areas that you go to are kind of bleak, they're rainy or cloudy, and, you know, they're kind of gloopy, you know, some of the textures and stuff they come across at first glance, but other places aren't like that at all, like places around where the tree is and how everything shines and glows as the sun looks like it's going down. So there are places that really do pop graphically wise and stick out, and then there are other places that don't. So overall they're fine. I think they're passable, and I don't really have a huge complaint about the graphics, but they're the least favorite part about the game for me. And that's fine because, like I said, I think they're still pretty solid. But now let's get into one of the best parts about the game that I really do want to communicate that, for me, just blew me away, and it just kept blowing me away. It was just so crazy to think about, and that is the variety. And when I say the variety, I mean variety in everything. Variety in weapons, variety in different types of monsters, variety in the bosses, variety in the different types of locations. I mean, just you name it. They had every weapon you could think of. You could go to every different type of location, whether it was a mountain or whether it was a bog or underneath the earth where there's lava and weird kind of sewage crap or dark forests or badlands. Just every single type of environment that you can think of, and then the monsters are all scattered across the place. When it comes to some of the bosses, there were some, I guess you could call them reprints of some basic weaker monsters, but there were a lot that were unique and different. And there were just so many bosses scattered throughout the game that it really felt like each one had a different kind of swing to them. And as far as their power level, there was variety in that too. Some of them were weak depending on where you went, and some of them were much stronger depending on where you go. And there was just such a variety of different types of weapons that you could use in these different scenarios, which leads me to the combat. Really, you could build up any type of character you could think of. You could build up a character that's a dual wielder with short swords or heavy swords. You could have one with a sword or a shield on one side. You could have a mage. You could have a cleric. You could have a rogue. You could have all these different types of builds and character builds and different things that support each other and level requirements that you could put into these different attributes that balanced out those types of characters you wanted to build. And so the amount of customization was really impressive to me. I have to say, I mean, honestly, the amount of variety in this game was just so impressive, to the point that, I mean, when I thought I was getting towards the end of the game and I'm slowly finding out more areas are opening up, I'm only like halfway through, the amount was just insane. And I think that for a lot of people, this could be considered a criticism, actually, because it kind of reminds me of, say, The Witcher 3. Yeah, there are a lot of people that complain that, well, there was too much, that all the side stuff was too much and it took away from, say, the main story. But I don't think that at all. I think that just the amount of content that this produced actually is a positive to the game. I think it's a really strong aspect, and it makes me want to play it again and again. And there is one thing that really adds the customization aspect to it, and that's something called these how do you pronounce it? Larval tiers. I forget how to pronounce this stupid thing, but there are these tier type of things that you can find throughout the game, and they actually allow you to reallocate all of your different perks. And I did it maybe 3 or 4 times in my Let's Play. Basically, if you start off as a heavy swordsman, heavy armor type of character, and you get one of these larval tiers, you can reallocate everything to where you're just a, glass cannon mage or whatever type of playthrough you want. And so it adds this customization level to where on the same exact playthrough, you can switch up your playstyle mid-game or late game or early game or however you want to do it. And so the amount of variety which added into the combat and just the enemies and how you could go about doing combat, I was just so impressed by it, guys. I thought it was just so freaking awesome. And one of the final things I do want to bring up is, so the graphics are fine, the gameplay is great, the mechanics are great. I know some people talked about the mechanics, they were a bit clunky, and certain things like the stick or the lock was getting stuck. I never really had those issues in my Let's Play. If you go back and watch my Let's Play, I was having issues on my end with like my setup and my controller, but the gameplay was pretty smooth. I mean, how you actually operated in combat, I thought flowed very well. So when you add in that combat and all the variety that goes to that, I think all that's solid. But the final thing, and I think the main complaint I'm hearing that I don't think is a complaint at all, is when it comes to certain elements of the story. You see, the thing about Elden Ring is that it's a story that doesn't hold your hand, and it has an incredible rich amount of lore to it. I mean, even from the starting opening scene, you can tell there is a depth of stuff going on in the background here. There is a history going on. But when you're actually playing the game, you only get kind of tidbits of it. I mean, you will meet NPCs, but they're kind of scattered few and far between. And the thing is that you could really miss them. Like, you could just go straight to where you think you're supposed to go and miss a wealth of content when it comes to NPCs and the stories. And even when you do talk to some of the NPCs, they kind of assume that you know certain things in some cases, and as they're talking, you can really feel lost. Like, as the story goes on, there's a lot of times where you can ask yourself, man, what am I even doing here? Or what's the story behind this? Or what's the purpose of this? Or where does this come from? You can tell that you are in a world with incredible lore, a rich history, and there have been events that have shaped the landscape and the characters around you in incredible ways. But you only, as you're playing, feel that you kind of get a surface level of what that is. And what ends up happening because of that is that you end up needing to actually go off from playing and go online and find out the lore that way. And a lot of people feel that that's not good, that they should just explain it in the game. In which case, I would say a couple things. First of all, they actually do, in my perspective, do a pretty good job of explaining it in different areas. You just have to work a bit hard to find it. Whether it's in the books, whether it's in the, you find different lore books. A lot of it is explained on the weapons and armor. There are descriptions on all of that crap, and you can find out a lot about the history and how stuff is going on. And I understand that you can feel lost, but basically, if you dedicate yourself to exploration, the game really rewards you with that exploration while you stumble across new quests, new NPCs that open up the world and what's come from. But the second thing is that the game is designed in such a way to where it does leave you in the dark about certain things, to where it intentionally wants you to go off and go online, because one of the things that I learned when researching this game and looking at it is that the developers wanted to create a community to where people would talk about this game, to where they talk about the lore and what means what and where comes from where and all that kind of stuff. So the vagueness of the lore and the history of the game, that's actually quite intentional. And so to where a lot of Let's Players feel that that's a weakness, to where you have to look up online something, or if you have to find out something by going on a community board or something like that, I actually feel like that's a strength. I think that actually builds up the hype. And it really rewards players who dedicated themselves to exploration within the game. I mean, there's just such a wealth of information there, but it's scattered so far abroad that you kind of have to go out of your way looking for it. So there's such an incredible story there. I can't tell you how many Elden Ring videos about just like the lore of the bosses or hidden secrets and stuff that I've been watching that you really wouldn't know otherwise unless you're really sharp, like 2020, paying attention, playing it like 3 or 4 times in a row. I mean, other than that, but it's so rich and it covers such a deep background. And I have to say, I don't think that's a weakness at all. I think that's a strength of even how the game is laid out. So, in other words, honestly, I don't really have much bad to say about this game at all. I think the graphics are fine, the depth is fine, the variety's great, the story, even though it's kind of shoved to the background in the side, I think it does a wonderful job being the foundation that this world is built on. And overall, I would really, really highly recommend it. And if you don't want to play it, or if you've already played it, I mean, hey, why don't you check out my Let's Play? They're on my other channel. At first, it was honestly my first Let's Play, and it was the first Let's Play that I completed too, so even though I think I finished uploading God of War Ragnarok videos, Elden Ring was the first Let's Play that I ever did and the first one that I completed, and I really wanted to make a video about it. I think it's really solid. I don't know about the DLCs. I know there was a DLC that came out recently that was online stuff. I feel like there's supposed to be another DLC coming out pretty soon that's just going to be like new content, and I'll definitely be playing that. But please check it out. It's a little bit rough starting off, but I think it's mostly solid, and it gets better and better as you watch it as far as my Let's Plays goes. Next week, or sometime later next week, I will be posting a review like this one that's just kind of really laid back and just off the cuff of God of War Ragnarok. And sometime between here and there, I think I'll be posting a new review, kind of going back to the basics, and it'll be about Vinland Saga anime that is wrapping up its season 2 right now. In any case, guys, that's really all I had to say about this video. If you liked it and if you agree with me, why don't you hit the like button, and if not, let me know in the comments what you thought of the game. Do you want to play it? Did you play it? What did you think about it? And I think it's pretty awesome. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching me, and have a great freaking day.